When I walked into my daughter's house on Christmas Eve carrying bags of gourmet food and expensive wine, I expected to be welcomed with open arms. Instead, Olivia looked at me like I was an uninvited stranger and said, "Oh, Mom, I thought we agreed to keep things simple this year." That's when I realized I'd been spending my entire inheritance on people who saw me as an obligation, not family. "Mom, I thought we said we'd keep things simple this year." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "Simple? I've been planning this for weeks." Jacob appeared behind her, his face showing confusion, annoyance, and panic. "Didn't we discuss keeping things low-key this year? Can I at least come inside? This ham weighs 10 pounds. They exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. Finally, Olivia stepped aside, but there was no warmth in the gesture. Their living room looked different. Sitting in Harold's old armchair was a woman I'd never seen before. "Margaret, this is my mother, Doris," Jacob said. Doris looked me up and down with the critical eye of someone evaluating competition. Her clothes looked expensive. Her smile was the kind you give to service workers. "How lovely to meet you," she said without getting up. I looked around, processing what I was seeing. Doris's suitcases were by the stairs. Her coat was in the closet where I usually put mine. She was clearly staying here. "I didn't realize you were having other guests," I said, still holding my bags. "It was sort of last minute," Olivia said. "Doris lost her husband in September, and we thought it would be nice for her to spend Christmas with family." "Where should I put the food?" I asked. "Actually, Mom," Olivia said carefully, "we already bought a Christmas dinner." Doris insisted on handling everything. She brought a full spread from that gourmet place in Short Hills. I stared at her. "But we planned this weeks ago. I've been cooking for 3 days." "I know, and I'm sure everything you made is delicious. But Doris went to so much trouble, and her feelings would be hurt if we didn't eat what she brought." Weeks. She'd been planning for weeks, but this was the first I was hearing about any of it. "Where am I supposed to put my overnight bag?" I asked, looking around the living room. Another uncomfortable silence. Olivia and Jacob exchanged another one of those looks. "Actually, Mom, about that. Doris is staying in the guest room, and with Ben's toys everywhere and all the Christmas chaos, things are a little cramped. We were thinking maybe you could stay with Aunt Joan instead, just for tonight and tomorrow night. It would actually be easier for everyone." The words hit me like a physical blow. Stay with Aunt Joan. My sister's dusty, cold house where the heat barely worked and the guest bed felt like sleeping on concrete. Instead of staying with my own daughter's family on Christmas. "You want me to stay somewhere else on Christmas?" "It's just logistics, Mom. Doris is older and more fragile since her husband died. The guest room has the better mattress and she needs to be close to the bathroom at night. You understand?" I looked at Doris, who was watching this conversation with obvious satisfaction. She didn't look fragile. She looked like someone who was enjoying watching me get pushed aside. "But I brought presents for Ben. I brought his favorite cookies. I made his storybook. And that's wonderful, Mom. Really, Ben will love seeing you." "This doesn't change anything about Christmas Day. You'll still be here for dinner and presents. You'll just sleep somewhere else." Just sleep somewhere else. Like I was an afterthought who could be shuffled around for everyone else's convenience. I stood in their living room, holding bags of expensive food that apparently nobody wanted, looking at my daughter who was choosing a stranger's comfort over her own mother's presence, and I finally understood what was happening. I wasn't a guest being welcomed home for Christmas. I was an obligation being managed. "Fine," I said quietly. "Let me just put this food in your kitchen in case anyone wants leftovers later." I walked to their kitchen, unpacked $5,000 worth of gourmet food that would probably sit untouched, and tried to process what had just happened. Through the kitchen window, I could see Ben in the backyard, building a snowman with complete concentration. He was the only reason I was staying. When I came back to the living room, Doris had moved to the couch and was examining the presents I'd brought. "Oh my," she said, picking up the gift bag with Ben's name on it. "This is quite elaborate. I hope he won't be overwhelmed with too many gifts." "I'm sure Ben can handle opening presents from both grandmothers," I said. Of course, though Jacob and I have always believed in keeping Christmas simple for children. Too much excess can spoil them." Jacob and I. Like they were a team, and I was the outsider who didn't understand their family values. I called Joan from their driveway. "Of course you can stay here, Maggie," my sister said, though I could hear the confusion in her voice. "But I thought you were spending Christmas with Olivia." "Change of plans. I'll explain when I get there." Joan's house was exactly as cold and unwelcoming as I remembered. The guest room smelled like mothballs, the heat was barely functioning, and the bed felt like it hadn't been slept in for months. I sat on the edge of the mattress, still wearing my coat, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. My daughter had essentially uninvited me from Christmas in my own family. Not explicitly, not cruelly, but effectively. I was still allowed to attend, but I wasn't allowed to belong. I unpacked my overnight bag with numb hands, hanging my nice Christmas dress in a closet that smelled like cedar and disappointment. Tomorrow, I would go back to Olivia's house and pretend this was all perfectly normal. I would smile and be gracious and let Doris hold court in my place. But tonight, I was alone on Christmas Eve for the first time since Harold died, wondering how I'd become so disposable to the person I loved most in the world. The next morning, I drove back to Olivia's house for Christmas breakfast, carrying the homemade cinnamon rolls I'd made at Joan's, using ingredients I'd had to buy at a convenience store. When I walked in, the house smelled like bacon and coffee, and I could hear laughter coming from the kitchen. Ben ran to me when he saw me, wrapping his arms around my legs with the enthusiasm only a 5-year-old can manage. "Grandma Maggie!" "Grandma Doris made pancakes that look like snowmen." Grandma Doris. They'd been here for one day, and she was already Grandma while I was still just Grandma Maggie, like I needed a qualifier to distinguish me from the real grandmother. "That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. I brought cinnamon rolls." "We're actually pretty full from breakfast," Olivia said, barely looking up from her coffee. "But thank you." I spent Christmas morning sitting in Harold's old armchair, which Doris had vacated for the living room activities but clearly considered her territory, watching my family open presents. Ben loved the toy kitchen I'd bought him, but every time he tried to show me a feature, Doris would interrupt with suggestions about where it should go or how he should play with it. "We'll need to find a special place for this in your room," she told Ben. "Grandma Doris knows exactly how to organize toy kitchens." When Ben opened the handmade storybook I'd created for him, 12 original stories about a little boy who had adventures with his grandmother, Olivia barely glanced at it. "That's very sweet, Mom. Ben, what do you say to Grandma Maggie?" "Thank you, Grandma Maggie. Will you read me one?" "Maybe later, sweetie," Olivia said before I could answer. "We don't want to overstimulate you with too many new things at once." But 15 minutes later, when Doris pulled out a store-bought book she'd wrapped for Ben, suddenly story time was perfectly appropriate. "This is a classic," Doris announced, settling Ben on her lap. "Every child should know these traditional tales." I watched my grandson snuggle against this woman he'd known for 2 days while my homemade book sat forgotten on the coffee table. For Christmas dinner, I wasn't seated at the main dining room table. Instead, Olivia had set up a card table in the living room to balance the seating. The main table seated 6 comfortably, but apparently they needed me at the overflow table so the real family could sit together. Doris held court at the head of the table, Harold's old spot, talking about her late husband's successful career and their extensive travels. Every few minutes she'd make a subtle comment about Christmas traditions or proper child rearing that made it clear she found my approaches lacking. "I always make Christmas dinner completely from scratch," she said, carving the prime rib she'd brought. "I think there's something special about food made with love rather than just purchased." I thought about the truffle mashed potatoes sitting untouched in Olivia's refrigerator, the bourbon-glazed ham that had cost more than most people spend on a week of groceries. "Some of us have been making Christmas dinner from scratch for decades," I said quietly. "Oh, of course," Doris said with that patronizing smile. "I just meant that some people rely too heavily on prepared foods these days. It's so important to maintain standards." After dinner, I helped clean up while Doris sat in the living room with Ben, reading him her book and talking about all the wonderful traditions they were going to start together. "She's really wonderful with him," Olivia said as we loaded the dishwasher. She's known him for 2 days. Mom, don't be like that. She's been through a lot this year. Losing a spouse is devastating. Like she'd forgotten that I'd lost Harold too. Like my grief was somehow less important because it was older. I know what it's like to lose a spouse, Olivia, but that doesn't mean I expect to take over someone else's family. She's not taking over anything. She's Jacob's mother. She has every right to be here. And I don't? Olivia stopped loading dishes and turned to face me. Of course you do, but you have to understand that things are different now. Jacob and I are trying to balance both families, and sometimes that means making accommodations. Accommodations. That's what I was now. Not a priority, not a beloved family member, but an accommodation that needed to be managed. I left early that evening, claiming exhaustion but really just unable to watch Doris continue to establish herself as the primary grandmother while I became increasingly invisible. Ben hugged me goodbye, but he was distracted by a new toy Doris had produced from her seemingly endless supply of gifts. Back at Joan's house, I sat in the cold guest room and looked through the photos I'd taken of my Christmas preparations. Pictures of me cooking, wrapping gifts, arranging flowers, preparing to create memories with people who saw me as an inconvenience. I deleted every single photo, then I opened my laptop and created a new folder on my desktop. I labeled it Next Year. 2 weeks into January, my phone rang. Olivia's name appeared on the screen. Hi, Mom. How are you doing? I'm fine, sweetheart. How's Ben? He's good. Actually, that's why I'm calling. Jacob and I were wondering if you'd be available to watch Ben on Saturdays for a while. Doris offered, but she's not really up for chasing a 5-year-old around, and our regular babysitter raised her rates. So now I was useful again. Not for Christmas, not for holidays, not for special occasions, but for Saturday babysitting when their preferred option wasn't available. I'm actually considering other plans this year, I said. Other plans? What kind of other plans? I'm not sure yet. I'm exploring my options. Mom, is this about Christmas? Because I thought we talked about that. It was just a difficult situation with Doris being so fragile. It's not about Christmas specifically. It's about figuring out where I fit in your life. You're my mother. You fit everywhere. Do I? Because it didn't feel that way on Christmas. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, I think you're being dramatic. One complicated holiday doesn't change our relationship. But it had changed our relationship. It had shown me exactly how expendable I was when push came to shove. Over the following weeks, I began making changes. I returned the unopened wine to the store where I'd bought it. I donated the unused gourmet ingredients to a food bank. I took the expensive gifts I'd bought but never given and returned them, using the money to pay down the loan I'd taken against Harold's life insurance. Then I made an appointment with my lawyer. I want to update my will, I told him. I want to change the primary beneficiary. My will had always been simple, everything to Olivia. But sitting in that lawyer's office, I realized I'd been planning to leave my life savings to someone who couldn't even make room for me at her Christmas table. I want to establish a trust for single mothers, I said. Women who are trying to build better lives for their children. When we finished, I felt lighter than I had in months. The following Saturday, when Olivia called about babysitting, I was ready. I'm not available for regular babysitting anymore. What do you mean? I thought you loved spending time with Ben. I do love spending time with Ben. But I'm not interested in being the backup option when your preferred choices don't work out. We're family. Family helps each other. Family also makes room for each other at Christmas. That weekend, I hosted my own dinner party. I invited Joan, my neighbor Mrs. Patterson, and 2 retired teachers. During dessert, I raised my glass to recognizing when you're no longer a guest in someone's heart, so you can stop bringing gifts. Mrs. Patterson nodded knowingly. Some people only want you when you're useful, dear. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. Grandma Maggie, I miss you. When are you coming over? Love, Ben. I typed back, I miss you too, sweetheart. Maybe you can visit me here sometime soon. I didn't hear from Olivia for the rest of January. In February, Jacob called. Olivia is really upset. She thinks you're punishing her for including my mother in the holiday. Is that what she thinks happened? That you included your mother? Mom was alone for the first time since Dad died. We wanted to make sure she felt welcome. And where exactly did that leave me in terms of feeling welcome? You're stronger than she is. You can handle things better. There it was. I was being punished for being resilient. I think this conversation is over. And Ben? He keeps asking about you. Ben is welcome to visit me any time, but I'm not going to continue pretending that Christmas was acceptable treatment. March came and went without contact. In April, I got a brief text from Olivia. Ben is asking about you. Can we please figure this out? I didn't respond. In May, Joan convinced me to call. I'd like to take Ben to the zoo this Saturday, I said when Olivia answered. Mom! I'm so glad you called. Actually, Jacob and I were thinking we could all go together. No, thank you. Just Ben and me. Don't you think we should talk about what happened? You've been holding a grudge over Christmas? I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just being more selective about where I invest my time and energy. From what? From being treated like an obligation instead of family. When's the last time you called just to talk to me? When's the last time you made me feel like I mattered to you as a person, not just as a service provider? Silence. I'll pick Ben up at 10 on Saturday. The day with Ben was wonderful. He chattered about school and his friends and the new games Grandma Doris had taught him. He didn't ask why I hadn't been around as much, just accepted my presence with the easy joy of childhood. When I dropped him off, he hugged me tight and said, I wish you could stay for dinner, Grandma Maggie. Maybe next time, sweetheart. Olivia walked out to my car as I was getting ready to leave. He missed you, she said. I missed him too. Mom, I know you're angry, but can't we find a way past this? For Ben's sake? I'm not angry anymore, Olivia. I'm just sad. Sad about what? Sad that it took being pushed aside at Christmas for me to realize how little I actually matter to you? You matter to me. You're my mother. But I don't feel like your mother. I feel like someone you tolerate because you have to. She started to protest, but I held up my hand. I spent $5,000 and 3 weeks preparing a Christmas that I thought would create beautiful memories for our family. Instead, I got shuffled off to Joan's house so a virtual stranger could take my place at your table. That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand. It wasn't personal, Mom. It was just circumstances. Everything is personal when it comes to family. You made choices about who was important and who was expendable. I was expendable. That's not fair. Fair would have been asking me how I felt about the situation. Fair would have been finding a way to include both mothers. Fair would have been acknowledging that I've been part of this family for 35 years. I started my car. I love you, Olivia. I'll always love you. But I won't continue to accept being treated as less important than someone who's known Ben for 5 minutes. Summer passed quietly. I took art classes, traveled to visit old friends, read books I'd been meaning to read for years. I felt more like myself than I had in years. In September, I got a call from Ben's school. He'd listed me as an emergency contact, and they were calling because he'd gotten sick and couldn't reach Olivia or Jacob. I picked him up and took him to my house, where I made him soup and let him rest on my couch. When Olivia finally called me back 3 hours later, she was frantic. I'm so sorry, Mom. I was in a meeting and didn't see the calls. Is he okay? He's fine. He's taking a nap. I'll come get him right now. He's welcome to stay here until he feels better. I don't mind. Are you sure? I know things have been complicated. Ben is never complicated. He's always welcome here. When she came to pick him up that evening, Ben was reluctant to leave. Can I stay with Grandma Maggie tonight? He asked. She makes the best sick day soup. Maybe another time, buddy, Olivia said. Then to me, thank you for taking care of him. Of course. As they were leaving, Ben turned back to me. Grandma Maggie, will you come to my birthday party next month? I looked at Olivia, who shifted uncomfortably. We'll see, sweetheart, I said. After they left, Olivia lingered on my porch. You know you're invited to his party, right? I mean, I know things have been weird between us, but you're still his grandmother. Am I invited? Or am I expected to help with the preparations and cleanup? You're invited as a guest, as family. And where will I sit? At the main table or at the overflow table? She had the grace to look ashamed. There won't be assigned seating, it's a kids' party. I'll think about it. I didn't go to Ben's birthday party. Instead, I took him out the weekend before for a special grandmother-grandson celebration. We went to the Children's Museum, had lunch at his favorite restaurant, and I gave him a gift I'd chosen just for him. The following week, Olivia called. Ben said you took him to the museum for his birthday. Thank you. He had a wonderful time. He's a wonderful boy. Mom, I need to ask you something. Are you planning to be part of our lives going forward, or are you planning to keep punishing us indefinitely? I'm not punishing you. I'm just not pretending that our relationship is something it's not. What does that mean? It means I'm not going to continue trying to be the mother and grandmother I thought you wanted when it's clear that what you actually want is someone who's available when convenient and invisible when not. That's not what we want, isn't it? Because that's what you've gotten for the past year and no one seemed to mind. Mom, please, can't we just go back to how things were? No, I can't go back to pretending that Christmas didn't happen. I can't go back to pretending that it's normal for a daughter to choose a stranger's comfort over her mother's presence. Doris isn't a stranger. She's Jacob's mother. To me, she's a stranger. To Ben, she was a stranger. But you prioritized her feelings over mine because she presented herself as more needy. She was grieving. So was I, Olivia. I've been grieving your father for 2 years. But because I didn't collapse into helplessness, my grief didn't count. I didn't know you were still grieving. Because you never asked. When's the last time you asked me how I was doing? Really doing, not just the polite version? Another silence. I love you, I continued. I'll always love you and Ben, but I won't continue to accept being treated as disposable. You've made it clear that other people's needs come before mine. And I've accepted that. I'm just living accordingly. What does that mean for us? It means that if you want me in your life, you'll need to show me that you actually want me there. Not just when you need babysitting or emergency contact services, but because you value my presence. How do I do that? I think you know how to treat people you care about, Olivia. You've just chosen not to treat me that way. October passed into November. I started making plans for my first Christmas alone, a trip to visit my college roommate in Arizona. I was looking forward to sunshine and no family drama. 3 days before Thanksgiving, my doorbell rang. It was Ben holding Olivia's hand. "Grandma Maggie," he said, hugging my legs. "Mommy says we came to invite you to Thanksgiving." I looked at Olivia over his head. "We're having a small dinner," she said, "just the 4 of us. I wanted to see if you'd join us." "What about Doris?" "She's spending Thanksgiving with her sister in Florida, so I was being invited to fill the gap when the preferred option wasn't available. Again. "That's very kind, but I already have plans," I lied. "Oh, okay." Olivia looked genuinely disappointed. "Maybe we could do something the day after? Just the 3 of us?" I considered it. Ben was looking at me with such hope. "I'd like that," I said. "Why don't you come here for lunch? I'll make Ben's favorite grilled cheese sandwiches." They came the day after Thanksgiving, and we had a lovely quiet meal together. Ben told me about his school Thanksgiving play, and Olivia actually seemed to relax and enjoy herself. As they were getting ready to leave, Olivia lingered in my kitchen. "Mom, I've been thinking about what you said, about showing you that I want you in our lives. And I don't think I've been very good at that. I think I've taken you for granted because you've always been so strong and independent. I assumed you didn't need as much attention. I don't need attention. I need consideration. I think I'm starting to understand the difference. Are you? Christmas this year is going to be different. I want you to know that. It's going to be about our family, our traditions. What about Doris? Doris will be welcome as a guest, but you're Ben's grandmother. You're my mother. This is your family, and Christmas should reflect that. I wanted to believe her, but I'd been disappointed before. "We'll see," I said. December arrived, and with it, a phone call from Olivia. "Mom, I want to talk to you about Christmas plans." "Okay." "First, I want to apologize for last year. Really apologize. I handled that situation badly, and I hurt you. I'm sorry. It was the first real apology I'd gotten. Thank you for saying that. Second, I want to know what would make this Christmas special for you. What traditions matter to you? What would make you feel valued and included? I was quiet for a long moment, surprised by the question. I'd like to cook something for dinner, something that's mine, that I'm contributing. Of course. What would you like to make? My mother's stuffing recipe, the one I used to make when you were little. I remember that stuffing. I loved it. And I'd like to stay over Christmas Eve, like we used to do when you were young. I want to be there when Ben wakes up Christmas morning. I'd like that too. The guest room will be ready for you. For the first time in almost a year, I felt a flutter of hope. But 3 days before Christmas, everything changed. Olivia called, and I could hear the strain in her voice immediately. Mom, we have a problem. Doris's sister had a stroke, and she can't host Christmas anymore. Doris has nowhere to go. My stomach dropped. I see. She's really upset. She was looking forward to spending the holidays with her sister, and now she's facing Christmas alone. Jacob feels terrible. And we can't just leave her alone on Christmas. You understand that, right? I understood exactly what was happening. The same situation as last year, wrapped in different circumstances. What are you asking me, Olivia? I'm asking if we can include Doris in our Christmas plans. I know it's not ideal, but it's just one day. Where would she sleep? Well, that's the thing. She really can't sleep on the couch because of her back problems. And the air mattress in Ben's room would be too uncomfortable for someone her age. So she needs the guest room. Just for one night. Maybe 2. And where would I sleep? There's the couch, or maybe you could stay at Joan's again. Just this once? Just this once. Except it wasn't just this once. It was a pattern where Doris's needs always trumped mine, where I was always the one expected to accommodate, always the one who could handle being displaced. No, I said quietly. No? No, I won't stay at Joan's. No, I won't give up the guest room. No, I won't spend another Christmas being shuffled aside for Doris. Mom, be reasonable. She's family too. She's Jacob's family. I'm your family. And I'm tired of being treated like I matter less. It's just one Christmas. It's never just one Christmas, Olivia. It's a pattern. Every time there's a choice between my comfort and hers, you choose hers. Every time someone needs to be inconvenienced, it's me. That's not true. Isn't it? Last Christmas I slept at Joan's. This Christmas you want me to sleep at Joan's again. When exactly do I get to sleep in my daughter's house on Christmas? You're being selfish. Am I? Or am I finally standing up for myself? Doris has nowhere else to go. She has Jacob. She has other relatives. She has friends. She has options. But even if she didn't, that doesn't automatically make her my problem to solve. I can't believe you're going to make us choose between you and a woman who just lost her sister's support system. I'm not making you choose anything. I'm making a choice for myself. I'm choosing not to be the family member who always gives way for everyone else's convenience. So what are you saying? You won't come to Christmas if Doris is here? I'm saying I won't come to Christmas if I'm not treated like I belong there. Mom, please. Ben is expecting you. Then you need to decide what's more important to you, accommodating Doris or including me. But I'm done pretending that being pushed aside is acceptable as long as it's done politely. Fine, fine. Doris can stay in a hotel. Are you happy? This isn't about making me happy, Olivia. It's about basic respect. I'll call you back. She hung up, and I knew exactly what would happen next. She'd discuss it with Jacob. They'd decide I was being unreasonable, and they'd choose Doris anyway. I was right. Olivia called back an hour later. Mom, we've decided that Doris should stay here for Christmas. She's been through too much this year to spend the holiday alone in a hotel. But you're still welcome to come for Christmas dinner. Welcome to come for dinner. Like a dinner guest instead of family. You're not welcome to stay over? The logistics are just too complicated with Doris here. But Christmas dinner will be wonderful, and Ben is so excited to see you. I understand. Do you? Because you sound angry. I'm not angry. I'm just finally clear about where I stand. Where do you think you stand? I think I stand wherever it's convenient for other people to put me. And I think I'm done standing there. What does that mean? It means I won't be coming to Christmas dinner. Mom, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You're going to miss Ben's Christmas because you're having a tantrum about sleeping. Arrangements? I'm going to miss Ben's Christmas because his mother has made it clear that I'm not really family. I'm just someone who gets invited when it's convenient. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because for the second year in a row, you've chosen Doris's comfort over my inclusion. That tells me everything I need to know. She doesn't have anywhere else to go. And I don't have anywhere else to belong. This was supposed to be my family, my place, my Christmas. But apparently, I only belong here when nobody else needs my spot. I hung up and turned off my phone. On Christmas morning, I woke up in my own house, in my own bed, and made coffee in my own kitchen. I opened the gifts I'd bought for myself: a cashmere scarf, a first edition book, expensive chocolates. Then I called the airline and booked a ticket to Arizona for that afternoon. At the airport, waiting for my flight, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls from Olivia, 12 voicemails, 23 text messages. I listened to one voicemail. Olivia was crying. Mom, please call me back. Ben keeps asking where you are. I don't know what to tell him. Please. We can work this out. But we couldn't work it out because the problem wasn't logistics or sleeping arrangements or holiday complications. The problem was that my own daughter didn't think I deserved the same consideration she gave to virtual strangers. I spent Christmas in Phoenix with my college roommate, who welcomed me with genuine warmth and asked nothing of me except my company. We exchanged small gifts, cooked a simple meal together, and talked about books and travel and all the things I'd forgotten I enjoyed discussing. On December 26th, my friend handed me an envelope. "This came for you yesterday," she said. "I told the delivery service you were here. It was from Ben." Inside was a drawing of a Christmas tree with stick figures underneath. There was a figure labeled Mommy, one labeled Daddy, one labeled Ben, one labeled Grandma Doris, and off to the side by herself, a figure labeled Grandma Maggie. At the bottom, in his careful kindergarten handwriting, "I wish you were here." I cried looking at that drawing, but I didn't regret my choice. When I returned home after New Year's, there was a package on my doorstep. Inside were all the Christmas gifts my family had bought for me, along with a note from Olivia. "Mom, I know you're angry, and maybe you have a right to be. I don't know how to fix this. Ben misses you. I miss you. Please call when you're ready to talk." I put the gifts in my closet, unopened. 3 weeks later, my lawyer called. "Margaret, I have the final paperwork for your will revision. Everything is set up exactly as you requested. The trust for single mothers will be fully funded upon your death, with a small provision for your grandson's education. And Olivia? As you requested, she'll receive a letter explaining your decision, along with the family photos and a few personal items. But the bulk of your estate will go to help women who are trying to build better lives for their children." Good. That evening I wrote a letter that I sealed and gave to my lawyer to include with the will. "Olivia," it began, "by the time you read this, I'll be gone, and you'll understand the final cost of taking family for granted. I spent 2 years trying to show you how much I loved you and Ben. In return, I learned that love without respect is just another burden people expect you to carry silently. I hope the women who benefit from this trust will value what they receive more than you valued what you had." February brought a phone call from Ben's school again. This time, he'd gotten into a fight with another child and asked specifically for me to pick him up. His parents are both unreachable, the principal said, but he insisted we call his Grandma Maggie. I picked him up and took him to my house, where we sat at my kitchen table and talked about what had happened. "The boy said I didn't have a real family," Ben said, his eyes red from crying. "He said real families stay together for Christmas." My heart broke for him. "You have a real family, sweetheart. Sometimes families just get complicated. Why don't you come to our house anymore? Because sometimes adults disagree about important things. Is it because of Grandma Doris? out of the mouths of babes. It's because your mommy and I see things differently. I like Grandma Doris, but I love you more. You're my real grandma. I love you too, Ben, more than you'll ever know. When Olivia came to pick him up, she looked exhausted. Thank you for getting him. Jacob and I were both in meetings. Of course. Mom, we need to talk. This situation isn't working for anyone, especially Ben. I agree. He asks about you constantly. He doesn't understand why you're not around anymore. What do you tell him? I tell him that grown-ups sometimes have disagreements, but he's 5. He doesn't understand why disagreements mean his grandmother disappears from his life. I haven't disappeared. I'm right here. I've always been right here. But you're not part of our family anymore. I was never part of your family, Olivia. I was just someone you called when you needed something. That's not true. When was the last time you invited me over just because you wanted my company? When was the last time you called just to talk? When was the last time you considered my feelings before making a decision that affected me? She was quiet. I can't think of a single time, she finally said. Neither can I. So what do we do now? Now you decide whether you want a relationship with me or not. But if you do, it has to be a real relationship. Not one where I'm only welcome when it's convenient for you. How do I show you that I want a real relationship? Start by treating me like someone whose feelings matter. Start by including me in decisions that affect me. Start by making me feel like I belong in your life instead of like I'm an obligation you have to manage. And if I do that, you'll come back? I never left, Olivia. I just stopped pretending that being treated badly was acceptable. Will you come to Ben's spring concert next month? He's been practicing a song he wants you to hear. I'd like that. And maybe you could come to dinner sometime. Just the 4 of us? When? This Sunday? I'll cook your favorite meal. What's my favorite meal? She looked confused. I'm not sure. You don't know my favorite meal because you've never asked. You don't know what I like or dream about because you've never been curious about me as a person. I want to know those things. Then ask me questions. Show interest in my life. Treat me like someone you care about instead of someone you tolerate. Will you come to dinner Sunday? Yes, but I want you to know something first. I've made changes to my will. Her face went pale. What kind of changes? The kind that reflect how I've been treated. Mom, don't make permanent decisions based on temporary anger. This isn't temporary anger. This is a permanent shift in my understanding of our relationship. What does that mean for Ben? Ben will be provided for. But my estate will go to people who value what they receive. You're leaving everything to charity. I'm leaving everything to women who need help building better lives for their children. Women who understand that generosity is a gift, not an entitlement. The following Sunday, I went to dinner at Olivia's house. She'd clearly put effort into the meal and asked me questions about my life for the first time in years. After Ben went to bed, we sat in her living room with coffee. Mom, about your will, I think you should reconsider. Ben isn't being punished. He'll have money for college, but the rest goes to women who will appreciate it. I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. Sorry doesn't undo years of being treated as disposable. The money isn't what matters. I just want you back in our lives. I'm protecting myself from being hurt again the way I was hurt at Christmas. I promise that won't happen again. You promised last year that this year would be different. Then you made the exact same choice. Over the following months, Olivia did try to show me she cared. She called regularly, invited me to dinner without asking favors, remembered my birthday thoughtfully. But I kept the will as it was. I'd learned I was worth more than I'd been accepting. The following Christmas, Olivia called in early November. I want to make sure you feel included this year, really included. You're the first person I'm discussing plans with. What do you want this Christmas to look like? I want to feel like I belong there. I want to contribute something meaningful. Christmas morning, I woke up in Olivia's guest room. Ben ran to me with genuine joy. Grandma Maggie, you're here for Christmas morning. We opened presents as a family. For dinner, I made my mother's stuffing and told Ben stories about when his mother was little. I kept the photo album on my coffee table and the will exactly as it was, because some lessons are too important to undo.